Hello, this video is on functions. Specifically, it's the first of two videos on linear models, as shown here in the syllabus. A mathematical model is a simplified description of a real-world system using mathematical concepts, and the process of developing a model is called modeling. For example, the cost of a taxi ride can be modelled by a linear function. A linear model has the general form f of x equals mx plus c, where m and c are constants. Linear models are used to describe situations where one quantity, the dependent variable, increases or decreases at a fixed rate relative to the other quantity, the independent variable. Remember that m is the gradient of the line and c is the y-intercept. So the graph of a linear model is a straight line. In the example, a taxi driver charges passengers an initial fee of £4 and then £0.75 for each kilometre travelled. So the cost can be modelled by the linear function shown, where 0.75 is the gradient and 4 is the y-intercept. Note also that the gradient is called the rate of change. In this question, we're asked to state the independent variable and the dependent variable. The independent variable is the time, t, in years, and the dependent variable is the value of the motorcycle, v, in dollars. In part B of the question, we're asked to find the value of v of 0 and to state its meaning in context. Substituting in the value of 0 for t and performing the calculation gives v of 0 equals 15,000. T equaling 0 is at the start, so v of 0 is the initial value of v. In other words, the value of the motorcycle when it is purchased. So the motorcycle is purchased for $15,000. Alternatively, we can use the calculator to solve this problem. From the main menu, selecting Graph, and type in the equation into y1. So that's 15,000, subtract 2,500, and then pressing the x variable button to use for t. And pressing execute to enter the equation. Pressing Shift F3 for view window to set up a suitable window. As the domain for t is between 0 and 6 years, we can set xmin to 0 and xmax to 6 with a scale of 1. Pressing execute and then F6 to draw the graph. At the moment the graph is not visible because we haven't set the Y scale yet. And we can do this automatically by pressing F2 for zoom, followed by F5 for auto. V of 0 is the y-intercept. So pressing F5 for G-solve, followed by F4 for y-intercept. We see that y equals 15,000. So as before, the motorcycle is purchased for $15,000. In part C, we're asked to find the value of the motorcycle 1.5 years after it is purchased. So we need to replace t with 1.5. In performing the calculation, So in menu, choosing the matrix option 1, so that's 15,000 subtract 2,500 multiplied by 1.5. So the value of the motorcycle 1.5 years after it is purchased is $11,250. Alternatively, we can solve this problem using the calculator. So pressing menu and going back to the graph, F6 to draw it again. So pressing F5 for G solve, and then F6 to get to the next page of menus, followed by F1 for a Y calculation. Of 1.5, that's the value of T. We see that Y is 11,250. So as before, the value of the motorcycle 1.5 years after it is purchased is $11,250. In part D, we're asked to find the value of T for which V of T equals 6,250 and to interpret this value of T. So if we start by writing an equation, equating V of T to 6,250. To find T, we can either solve this equation algebraically, giving T equals 3.5, or we can use Solver on the calculator. So from the main menu, if we select Equation, then select F3 for Solver, followed by F2 to delete any previous formula, and F1 to confirm the deletion. Typing in the equation, so that's 6,250, and then Shift to access the equals, and then 15,000 subtract 2,500, and then pressing X for the variable button, T. Pressing execute to enter the equation. Just to note that the number next to X is not the solution to the equation, as we haven't pressed solve yet. Pressing F6 to solve the equation. We see that X, or T in our case, is equal to 3.5. So after 3.5 years, the value of the motorcycle is $6,250. Alternatively, we could have solved the problem from the graph. So from the main menu, selecting Graph, and redrawing the graph, pressing F5 for G-solve, and then F6 to get to the second page of menus, and this time pressing F2 for an X calculation. Entering the Y value of 6,250, pressing execute to enter it, again we see X equals 3.5. So as before, the value of the motorcycle will be $6,250 after 3.5 years. In part E, we're asked to find the value of T for which V of T is equal to 0, and again to interpret this value of T. Again, using a graphical approach to solve the problem, we press F5 for G-solve, followed by f1 for the root. We see that x is 6 when y is 0. In other words, t equals 6 when v of t equals 0. So, after 6 years, the motorcycle has no value.